Thank you very, very much. I hope you still feel that way when I finish. Mr. Speaker, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, we've come here today to begin a process, to set out on a journey that will say a great deal about what kind of a state we want for our children and for our children's children. I'm not promising that this will be an easy journey or a painless one, but many a journey is worth taking because of what lies at the journey's end. You might remember me in the inaugural speech. Was that only 2 months ago? Yeah. Talking about my grandparents. My grandparents, just as I suspect many of your parents or grandparents, left their homes to sail across the ocean to a new world. They didn't expect a pleasure cruise. They sweated it out in the crowded steerage compartments of leaky ships. They did it because of what waited for them at the end of the journey. What waited was opportunity. Opportunity for us and for our families and those who come after us is what New Jersey will keep providing, if we are willing to take decisive action. Let me take a moment to sketch for you what I think we all want. We all want New Jersey to be like in years ahead. We want a state with schools that are second to none, turning out skilled, qualified workers, where we can be sure that everybody gets a chance. We want New Jersey to have clean, fresh water for us to drink. We want pure air to breathe. And of course, we want a beautiful shore for all of us to be able to enjoy. We want cities and towns where the American dream of owning a home is alive for our children as it was for all of us. We want a leaner, more efficient government, run like our families run their households, spending no more than it has to and spending no more than it has. But a government that is there to help the people who need to be helped. We want a state where taxpayers' dollars are used wisely and are properly accounted for, where taxes are fair, and where we ease the oppressive burden of local property taxes. A state that has built a foundation to help us with the bad economic times when they come. Friends, that's a New Jersey that's worth fighting for and worth having. It is the New Jersey that I pledge that the government that I lead will be striving for. But those goals, those values, are not going to happen in a vacuum. It won't happen if we keep on avoiding the tough choices. Today, we are confronted by harsh realities and hard decisions. The time has come to face them. As one of my heroes, the great heavyweight Joe Louis, used to say, You can run, but you can't hide. So I want to discuss with you today the steps that I believe we need to take to get through the next year, fiscal 1991, and to make sure that 1992 marks a bright new beginning. The budget I'm proposing for the fiscal year starting this July 1st is harsh. I don't like it. It contains measures tougher than a compassionate people should have to take. It frustrates our ability to make government the catalyst for change that I believe that it should be. But the one-shot fixes, the refusals to face reality that went into the budget under which we now live, the budget I've inherited, would be short-sighted if we applied them again, and we won't. You know as well as I do that in the last 8 years alone, the size of our state budget has doubled. The budget I'm proposing shatters that mold. The budget for the fiscal year starting July 1st, 1990, will be smaller, not bigger, than the one before it. This is going to require sacrifice, but it must be done. We have to change our ways. My proposal will mean a real balanced budget. We have cut more than $1 billion in spending from what was requested last year. We will continue to trim the size of state government. Except for an essential increase in the size of the corrections department staff, the overall state workforce will be smaller. Most of the positions that we cut will be middle-level managers, not the people directly providing services. As I've said, we have cut more than $1 billion from the spending requests of the previous administration. Yet, astounding as it may sound, when that cutting is done, when the efficiencies are put into place, we still fall short of a balanced budget. So I'm proposing to balance that budget, as we must, and that the way that we're going to do it is to raise and broaden the base of our state sales tax. By adding 1 cent on the dollar and closing loopholes, we can have a balanced budget, and that's, of course, the requirement of the law. We will not, I want to add very quickly, extend the sales tax to cover such basic necessities as food and clothing. I said that this would balance the budget, and it will. Not lavishly, not even comfortably, far from it. It will still be a budget dictated by the realities of a state that has unwisely spent its surpluses and failed to set aside enough to get us through hard times. State aid to our schools will increase, but not by enough. There'll be fare increases for train and bus riders. Students will pay more to go to our state colleges. We will not be able to afford the homestead rebate for next year. This is a tight budget, but we have no choice. Despite the hardships that this budget will require, I believe there is one area where we must go forward with renewed energy and commitment. We can't let our children's education suffer. As I suspect many of you know, I'm a high school dropout. I'm someone who came close to losing his way. I know the despair of almost being shut out. I know the exhilaration of learning. There are so many children across this state who need to feel that exhilaration. And so, even in a bare bones budget, I want to propose 3 important programs. First, no child in this state should have to try to learn in a classroom where the roof leaks and the windows are broken. I'm therefore proposing what I call the 3 R's bond program: rebuilding, refurbishing, and revitalizing our school buildings so that the proper setting exists for learning to take place, so that schools become true community centers. If we commit ourselves to this, we'll provide $600 million for 90% matching grants to fund school construction and renovation over the next 4 years. State-of-the-art laboratories, modern libraries, safe and comfortable classrooms. They'll mean a lot to our children. And because we will put emphasis on facilities that also can be used by families and by the elderly at all hours, we'll be putting our schools in the forefront of rebuilding our sense of community. Second, we must rekindle our investment in the early years of childhood, the years that count the most in building character and instilling the values of success. I'm calling for an appropriation of $5 million, which, together with money promised by the federal government, will let us double the number of children in Head Start programs here in New Jersey. You know this. There's no program that has ever meant more to improving the lives of young children in need. No program has ever offered more benefits in social and economic gains down the road. Third, I want to take action to make sure our state, and indeed our nation, is competitive with the rest of the world. I therefore call upon you to set aside $1 million for a math, science achievement program that will help our students put themselves and our nation back in the forefront of an area where we have gone from being the world's leaders to followers. Now, $1 million is not a lot of money. But what makes this program so exciting is that we will go to the businesses of New Jersey in search of matching grants. And I'm pleased to announce that this particular public-private partnership has already been joined by Nabisco, and I'm looking forward to many more corporate citizens finding ways to recognize the stake that they have in our children's future. This will be the first of many such partnerships to build a better New Jersey. Along with these proposals, I will be calling for another fundamental educational change. As we have struggled to reform our schools in recent years, we've had successes. But we have also expanded state bureaucracy at the expense of community initiative. It's time to cut the red tape for our best school districts. At times we have shackled the best school districts and taken time and resources away from helping those districts that are in trouble. Soon I will submit to you my proposals for reducing the costs in time and money to the top school districts by allowing more local discretion at the same time that we maintain high standards. Our educational goal should be excellence, not mere compliance. A balance will be struck between accountability to the state and the common sense reality that in so many cases, our communities know best how to provide good quality education. As I said earlier, our job in preparing a balanced, fair budget has been made more difficult by the out-of-control past spending that's occurred and the failure to use past surpluses for what they were intended. We've eaten our seed corn. As any farmer would tell you, that's a mistake. I have two proposals to turn around that situation. We must institute a real rainy day fund. Along the lines of what Senator Weiss has been talking about, as sort of a voice in the wilderness for entirely too long. In any year when revenues come in above expectations, the money will be set aside and it will be used in years when we take in less than we expected. It's just common sense. And second, there should be a state spending cap. A limit on the year-to-year increase in all state spending. These two actions will put us in a position to face up to reality. They will take us down the sound, prudent path of solving a crucial structural problem. The problem is this: the amount of money our state keeps spending continues to go up in good times and in bad. It goes up faster than our ability to pay, and that's just a recipe for disaster. For millions of people in this state, it doesn't take a law to make them spend no more than they take in. It's life. That's just good common sense. You can't live like a millionaire if you're not one. My family has always lived by those rules, and I suspect your families have lived by them as well. But we haven't been using common sense recently. We haven't lived by those simple rules. And as a result, we've had to take emergency steps to enable us to get through the immediate budget crisis of this very, very moment. This crisis involves the fiscal year that we are in now, the one that ends this June 30th. As you've heard me say before, the budget under which we are living today is seriously out of balance. It's been reported that inaccurate, overly rosy predictions, as well as an economic downturn, have left us with a $590 million shortfall. We're in the hole. I acted in a dramatic fashion to make sure that the state doesn't run out of money. In consultation with the leaders of the legislature, I'm prepared to cut more than $405 million for this year out of the budget. We've cut out state projects, frozen salaries, taken back state cars that never should have gone out there in the first place. We're working hard to gain credibility with the hard-working men and women of New Jersey. We're changing priorities. We're putting an end to business as usual. I know that putting this year's budget back into balance is an unusually serious problem. No one's ever had to do that before. And I believe that leadership, to do that or anything else, means setting an example. So I'm announcing today that I will take a 10% cut in my own salary for the rest of the fiscal year, and my cabinet will take a 5% cut in their salaries. I would note for the record that the cabinet is reluctantly applauding. I said at the beginning that what we do today will say a lot about the future of our state. So I want to make it very clear that I do not believe it is proper for me to come before you today with a plan for next year and nothing more. If we really want to make a difference, we have to take hold of our fate and start to plan ahead. Take steps even beyond the rainy day fund to make sure that when I come before you a year from now, we will have gotten off of this fiscal roller coaster that we've been on for too long. And we must right a fundamental wrong, the wrong of our inequitable property tax system. I want to use this office to make fair what is unfair. The way we pay for schools in this state does a disservice to our school children and to the property taxpayers and the homeowners of New Jersey. And so I propose a bold step to help both groups. Their futures should not be held hostage to our unfair, antiquated property tax system. I think it's worth reflecting for a moment on just how fragile the American dream has become. It's only in the last 40 years or so that we have become a nation where families like ours have owned their own homes. Today, that dream is threatened. I will not soon forget a gentleman who Lucinda and I met at a picnic in Elizabeth. He was in his early 60s, and he was crying as he spoke to the two of us. It was an embarrassing moment for him, I'm sure, shedding tears in the presence of strangers. But he wanted to tell us something. He wanted us to know that he had owned his home for years and even paid off the mortgage, but that he was in danger of losing his home because he could no longer afford his property taxes. Property taxes have gone up 108%. That's $4.5 billion in the past 8 years in this state. More than $3.1 billion just in these last 4 years alone. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not acceptable. Our sons and our daughters are finding home ownership beyond their reach. Many of them have no choice but to leave our state. That's not acceptable. Our property tax system is eating away at the American dream. And as oppressive as property taxes are for homeowners, that's how unfair they are for our kids in schools. All too often, the quality of their education is determined by the wealth of their community. And that's not acceptable either. It is in our hands to do something. I have 3 proposals. First, I believe we have an obligation to change the way we deliver state aid to schools. I'll be sending up a plan to establish a foundation level of support to provide a quality education for every child in New Jersey. If a school district can't, with a fair and moderate rate of taxation, provide that money, then the state should make up the difference. Second, I propose that the state should pay for its obligations, not push them on to others. I want the state to take over the cost of welfare benefits, foster care, and other social service programs now paid for by our counties and our municipalities. We also want the state to take over the costs of all patients in state and county psychiatric hospitals and all other state institutions. As many of you know, the state and the counties now have an elaborate process for billing each other back and forth. It's wasteful, it's inefficient, we ought to end it. Third, we need new, meaningful property tax relief. I propose we put a lid on property taxes and provide $400 million in relief for the people who need it most. Under my proposal, no family in New Jersey with an income of less than $65,000 a year will have to pay more than 5% of that income in property taxes. Where property taxes exceed that level, the state will pick up the difference up to an amount of $500 per year. Now, the amount of money that New Jersey takes in from income taxes today cannot pay for these important reforms. It won't give our kids the education they need. It can't give our communities what they need to bring relief to homeowners from local property taxes. And so, to bring back tax justice to our people, we must make our income tax fairer and more progressive. Accordingly, I will propose that starting on the 1st of January, 1991, the tax will be more progressive for people making more than $55,000 per year. No one making less than $55,000 per year will pay more than they do now. There will be a 7% top rate for the wealthiest of our citizens, and 3/4 of the money raised by what I'm proposing will come from those who are making more than $100,000 per year. If we do this, if you and I take this important step, we will be doing more, much more, than ever has been done before to deal with the worst abuses of the property tax system. I know that in weeks ahead, you will debate and you will deliberate about what it is that I've said here today, and I welcome that. In this legislature, there are many experts on all of the matters that I've talked about. My branch of government certainly has no monopoly on good ideas. But let me begin to respond even before you begin to consider. Some of you may be saying that I'm asking too much. Some may say it's unrealistic or unworkable. I think they're wrong. I'm new to this job, but I'm not new to government. I know that real leadership means determining what is politically possible and then doing more. I have always believed that it's only when you push at the edges that you excel. I want a New Jersey that keeps its commitments and then some. I want a New Jersey that doesn't say no to better schools and to the dream of home ownership. I want a New Jersey that says yes to its future. I am asking that we do things differently. And change isn't always easy. I know that. But I've traveled up and down this state enough to know that this isn't just about taxes and budgets. It's about the hard-earned money, about the lives, about the values of the men and women of New Jersey. These are matters that I know that you must and will debate with thought and care, and that's good. In the long run, at the end of our journey, what we start here today will mean a government that is leaner but better, a state that shows its concern for its young by investing in their future, by the fairest and most equitable means. It will mean, finally, a property tax that is fairer and less of a burden to our citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, We don't get to choose the times in which we live. But we do get the chance to determine how we respond to those times. I'm proposing today that we respond with boldness, with compassion, with honesty, and yes, with courage. And I'm confident that we will. Thank you very much.